In this video, I'm revealing 8 top red wines for your wine collection. These wines range in price from as little as $37 up to around $99. There's 5 different countries and 7 different regions represented, so there should be something for everyone. And some viewers have also asked me to identify some wines that are ready to enjoy immediately, so there's at least 5 or 6 of those wines in here as well. We're going to start off strong with a 100-point Bordeaux. This wine is highly acclaimed across the board with scores that range from 95 points to that 100-point score from Galani, and it's a wine that sells for only around $87. This producer is located on Bordeaux's right bank in Saint-Emilion. This producer has 15 hectares of vineyards, and the vines average around 40 years of age. It's located in an excellent neighborhood, as its neighbors include Trollong-Mondo and Château Pavie. I'm talking about the 2020 Château Pavie-Macquin. Pavie-Macquin usually includes a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon in its blend, but not for this particular vintage. The 2020 vintage is 80% Merlot and 20% Cabernet Franc. This wine has the richness you would expect from this producer, but also more freshness and vibrancy than typical. It's an absolutely exceptional effort for Pavie-Macquin. This is a wine that I would recommend you age for another 5 to 6 years. It will probably hit its peak 10 to 12 years after the vintage, and it can easily age for 2 to 3 decades. Iconic Spanish winery La Rioja Alta traces its roots way back to 1890. La Rioja Alta combines traditional winemaking with modern state-of-the-art technology. It makes wines that are based predominantly on Tempranillo. La Rioja Alta sources the fruit for its wines from some of the best areas in Rioja, and it controls every aspect of wine production. It even makes its own barrels from American oak to mature the wines, racks the wines by candlelight, and matures the wines for an extended period of time before release. La Rioja Alta makes many outstanding wines that I enjoy, but the 904 is one of my absolute favorite. So the next top red wine for your collection is the 2015 La Rioja Alta Gran Reserva 904 Selección Especial Tinto, which sells for around $89 in the United States. If that name sounds a little bit longer than usual, it's because it is. In fact, this is the first time ever that La Rioja Alta has used the Selección Especial designation for the 904. This is a distinction that La Rioja Alta reserves for only the finest vintages when it feels that the wine should be celebrated. They've used it twice previously for the 890 and around 4 times for the Viña Ardanza, but not until this excellent 2015 vintage have they used it for the 904. So they definitely think that this is going to be one of the best 904 vintages ever produced. This special wine is 90% Tempranillo and 10% Graciano, and it always spends at least 4 years in barrel and another 4 years in bottle before it's released. So extended aging, and as such, you can definitely enjoy it immediately, but it will certainly age for an extended time in your cellar as well. I first tasted this wine at the winery in the summer of 2022, and at that time they had decided to postpone the release by an additional year because they thought the wine was a little bit backwards and needed more time to show its best. And that decision certainly seems to have paid off, as the wine is definitely a little bit more vibrant than it was even last year, although it was certainly impressive when I tried it at the winery as well. To be sure, the price for this wine has been heading north, and is considerably higher than it was for the most recent vintage, which was the 2011 vintage, but it still offers exceptional relative quality compared to other collectible wines of a similar caliber. And also, one of the best tips that I have to take advantage of this price discrepancy is to check to see if you can get some of the 2011 vintage. I recently replenished my stash of that and found a number of those selling for around $70. Plus, that one is even more approachable and in a better drinking window right now than the 2015. So my recommendation would be to buy more of the 2011 at around $70 and enjoy that one sooner, and then save your 2015 and let those continue to improve in the cellar. Well, I know that everyone wants immediate gratification and wants to enjoy their wines right away. This is truly a potentially extraordinary wine with some substantial bottle aging. I was reminded of that just this week when I was fortunate enough to try the 1973 La Rioja Alta 904, and it was showing extremely well, even to this day. So certainly the 2015 vintage is definitely one that has a long life ahead of it, And so if you buy some of that one, I recommend that you get a number of bottles of it and maybe try one of them soon, but then save the other ones and let them age as long as you can. The next top red wine for your wine collection offers tremendous value at around $37 per bottle. I recently did a video on Chianti Classico, but certainly there are many excellent wines that offer top quality expressions of Sangiovese and Chianti Raifina as well. Unlike Chianti Classico, Chianti Raifina is a subzone of Chianti DOCG, but nevertheless it has DOCG status in its own right, and there's many exceptional wines from Chianti Raifina. Many of the Chianti Raifina vineyards are planted at some elevation. As such, they receive some cooling nighttime temperatures as well as some cooling breezes. These cooling influences help to produce fruit that makes wines with ample acidity and freshness. The result is some very elegant, impressive wines. One such example is the 2019 Selvapiana Chianti Raifina Reserva Bucerchiale, which sells for around $37 and received critical acclaim from a number of critics. This is the 40th anniversary bottling of this producer's flagship wine. This wine comes from a single vineyard and is an excellent expression of Chianti Raifina. It's one that you can enjoy immediately and is already extremely impressive, but will certainly be capable of aging for another 12 to 15 years as well. The next top red wine for your wine collection comes from well-known Burgundy producer Domaine Drouhin, but it's not Burgundy, rather it's Willamette Valley Pinot Noir from Oregon. Domaine Drouhin was one of the very first producers from Burgundy to invest heavily in Willamette Valley, and since that time many more have followed suit. The 2021 Domaine Drouhin Roserock Pinot Noir comes from the Eola Amity Hills, which is one of my favorite AVAs in Willamette Valley. This impressive Pinot Noir is highly acclaimed, yet sells for only around $40 a bottle. It's definitely an outstanding value at this price point. This wine is a cuvée selection that comes from the 35 different blocks of estate fruit that Domaine Drouhin has, and it's one that's already showing extremely well. It's very elegant and refined and enjoyable in the near term, but certainly one that will age as well. So it gives you plenty of flexibility. It's a consistently excellent wine year in and year out, so you definitely may also want to keep an eye out for the 2019 vintage, which may even be a little bit better in terms of quality. And Domaine Drouhin also has an outstanding Roserock Chardonnay that's well worth seeking out as well. If you're interested in wine recommendations, wine collecting strategies, and learning more about wine, please do subscribe to my channel. I've been collecting wine for more than 15 years and also have a level 4 diploma from the WSET. So I have both formal certification as well as substantial practical knowledge from the School of Hard Knocks. Bodega Muga is a quality-minded Spanish producer that embraces traditional winemaking principles, but also uses modern technology to make their outstanding wines. Bodega Muga is a family-owned producer that was started back in the 1930s. The next top red wine for your wine collection sells for around $99 a bottle, and it is from Bodega Muga. Specifically, it's their 2015 Prado Enea Gran Reserva, which is in the discussion of best ever vintages of Prado Enea. This is a highly acclaimed wine that received favorable scores from critics. It's a blend that consists of Tempranillo, Garnacha, Mazuelo, and Graciano. It matured for 36 months in oak, only 10% of which is new. It's a wine that combines richness in texture with freshness and acidity. It's already enjoyable, but it's definitely one that will cruise in the cellar for up to 2 decades, and it should be readily available as they produced 8,000 cases of it. While this next top red wine for your wine collection is one that sells for $99 and is thus the most expensive wine that I'll be discussing in this video, it's an absolutely sensational Super Tuscan wine that compares very favorably to wines such as Sassicaia and Ornellaia, which sell for 3 times the price. I'm talking about the 2019 Grattamacco Bolgheri Superiore. This is an intriguing blend that consists of 65% Cabernet Sauvignon, 20% Merlot, and 15% Sangiovese. I appreciate the inclusion of the Sangiovese as it definitely adds some acidity and freshness to this wine. This is a wine that is very balanced and harmonious, but which will improve with some additional bottle age. So this is one that I recommend that you put aside for a few years. It was made in pretty high quantity, about 5,400 cases or so, but only about 300 were imported into the United States. And so if you're located in the United States, you may want to act on this one pretty quickly. The next top red wine for your wine collection received an impressive 97-point score from Robert Parker, and yet sells for only around $47 per bottle. I'm talking about the 2018 Altos Las Hormigas Waltageri Malbec, which comes from Mendoza, Argentina. The Waltageri district is certainly a prestigious one, and it's definitely one of my favorite areas for the production of high-quality wine in Mendoza. Among other things, Waltageri is known for having its special soils, as well as for vineyards that are planted at extremely high elevations. The result is that they produce some wines that have much more elegance and finesse and acidity than your standard Malbec from Mendoza. This wine is a prime example of that, as the ABV clocks in at a reasonable 13.5%. The fruit for this impressive wine comes from vineyards that are planted at 1,300 feet above sea level. The soils consist of limestone and gravel, but there's also a little bit of clay as well. This is a wine that was fermented in concrete with indigenous yeast. Following fermentation, this wine matured for 30 months. 18 months of that was in 3,500-liter French oak foudres, and then another 12 months in the bottle. This wine has a bit of a rusticity and a savage quality, but I mean that in a good way, sort of like a northern Rhone. It's an intriguing wine that over-delivers at this reasonable price point. Vintners is a Washington-based winery that's known for extremely high-quality wines at reasonable price points. Vintners was founded by Charles Smith. Charles Smith used to be a rock band manager who lived in Denmark and toured Europe in that capacity for almost 10 years. After he stopped working as a rock band manager, Charles Smith moved to Seattle, Washington, and following a visit to Walla Walla, he made his first vintage of Syrah back in 1999. Like Charles Smith, I'll be heading to Walla Walla, Washington next week, and so my next top red wine for your wine collection is the 2019 Vintners Powerline Syrah, which sells for around $63 a bottle, despite the fact that it received rave reviews from critics. This wine is 100% Syrah from the Powerline Estate Vineyard in Walla Walla, Washington. This is a 38-acre vineyard that's planted at 1,200 feet elevation. This wine was produced using 100% whole cluster fermentation, and it matured for 28 months in barrel before it was released. It's an incredibly expressive, aromatic wine with substantial vibrance, really very enjoyable and impressive. You can enjoy it now with a healthy decant, or at any time over the next 12 to 15 years or so.